The music was loud, the food smelled amazing, and the bright summer sun made the city park glow like it had been polished for our family's special day. Kids ran around chasing balloons while adults laughed and hugged each other like they had not seen one another for years. Our annual Carter family reunion always brought life to downtown Chicago, but this year felt extra special. We had rented a huge pavilion decorated with gold ribbons, bright tablecloths, and a large banner that read, "Family, our greatest treasure." I believed those words with my whole heart. I had spent the past year working double shifts, one job at a restaurant and another at a large retail store. I wanted to save enough to move into a better apartment, maybe even start my photography business one day. My savings account was my pride. It gave me hope that I was building something solid in this big, unpredictable city. So today, I wanted to celebrate. Laugh. Forget about stress. Eat grilled chicken. Dance with my aunties. I wanted to feel proud of how far I had come. But life doesn't always wait until after the party to crush you. The sun was beginning to set when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't think anything of it at first. Probably a message from one of my friends asking how the reunion was going. I walked away from the noise just to check quickly. The moment my eyes landed on the screen, my smile disappeared. My hands started to shake. I blinked twice, hoping my phone was just glitching. Account balance, $0. No. This had to be a mistake. I tapped refresh. Again. And again. Still, $0. Every dollar I had worked for. Every late night. Every weekend shift. My future, gone. Just like that. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I felt dizzy. I hurried back toward the crowd, scanning faces desperately for one person who could help me understand what was happening. Derek. My sister Olivia's husband. My brother-in-law. The man I never truly trusted. I spotted him standing near the grill, laughing loudly like he owned the place. Rage shot straight through my body. My voice trembled as I stormed toward him. "Derek," I gasped, trying not to scream. "Did you touch my account? Where is my money?" His smile faded slowly, replaced by something darker, something bold. With everyone watching, he threw his hands in the air and shouted. We needed it. The family needed the money. My heart dropped. Everyone went silent. Forks froze in the air. Even the music felt like it paused. I stared at him, unable to believe what I had just heard. He stole my life savings, and he wasn't even sorry. My voice cracked. "What, do you mean we needed it?" I asked, barely able to speak. Derek took a step closer, towering over me with his chest pushed out like a man proud of something terrible. He pointed his finger right in my face and repeated loudly so every relative could hear. "You think you're better than us because you saved some money? We needed it." Tears pushed into my eyes, hot and angry. I looked desperately around at my family, searching for help, for support, for someone to stand up for me. No one moved. No one spoke. No one defended me. Instead, they all stared like I was the problem. My knees felt weak. My breath shook. The reunion that began with love had suddenly turned into a nightmare. And deep in my chest, a sharp fear whispered, "This is only the beginning." My name is Naomi Carter. I am 28 years old, and until a few hours ago, I believed my life was finally moving in the right direction. I live in a small but comfortable apartment on the east side of Chicago, close to the busy downtown streets filled with honking cars, glowing skyscrapers, and people always rushing like the city never sleeps. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of trains passing and the smell of freshly brewed coffee from the cafe below my building. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I worked 2 jobs just to survive and save something for a better future. During the day, I stood behind a counter at a big retail store, folding clothes and smiling at customers even when my feet screamed in pain. At night, I worked at a restaurant serving food, wiping tables, and pretending not to hear rude comments. Hard work didn't scare me. In fact, I was proud of how far I had come without depending on anyone. But the truth is, I didn't grow up alone. I had a family that once meant everything to me. Especially my older sister, Olivia. We were inseparable as kids. Olivia was the brave one, always defending me from bullies and teaching me how to be strong. When she fell in love with Derek, we all thought he was charming at first. He had a nice smile and wanted to take care of her. But after the wedding, things changed slowly. Derek became controlling. He didn't like Olivia visiting us too often. He didn't like when she spent money without asking him first. He always had something negative to say about my dreams, my job, my choices. Photography isn't a real career, he once told me. That money in your bank, it's just sitting there useless. You should invest in something actually profitable, he said another time. I had learned to avoid him, to protect my peace. But today, there was no escape. The reunion crowd remained frozen, staring at us like we were the evening entertainment. My chest tightened as I took a shaky step forward. What do you mean you needed it? I demanded. That was my savings. My future. I worked for that money. You had no right to touch it. Derek smirked like he was confident he had the entire family on his side. You think you're the only one struggling, he scoffed. We're family. Families help each other. Olivia told me your PIN months ago. If you didn't want us to use it, why share it? My heart skipped. I turned to Olivia, hoping, praying that he was lying. But my sister looked down, tears forming in her eyes. She was shaking. Naomi, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't think he would take all of it. He promised he'd return it before you found out. Before I found out. So they knew. They both knew. This wasn't a mistake or emergency. It was planned. My throat tightened. Betrayal from your own blood hurts the deepest. I spoke softly, but each word came out sharp like broken glass. I don't care what excuse you think you have. I want my money back. All of it. Derek laughed loudly, a cruel and mocking sound that made everyone else uncomfortable. Oh Naomi, he said, shaking his head, you don't understand yet. You can't get back what has already been spent. Spent. My vision blurred as heat rushed to my face. I felt like I was falling even though I stood still. He leaned closer, his voice low and threatening. You have no idea what you've just started. A chill raced through my body. For the first time, I realized. This wasn't just about money. There was a bigger secret hiding behind his eyes. And I was about to uncover it. The air in the park felt heavier now. The happy music was still playing, but it no longer sounded joyful. Conversations turned into whispers, and all eyes stayed glued to us like a real-life drama unfolding. Derek crossed his arms, trying to appear calm and confident. We needed the money to save our house, he said loudly, making sure everyone heard his version first. The bank was going to take it. We were desperate. He tried to sound like a hero. A victim. A family man. But I wasn't buying it. I stared directly into his eyes, and for a moment, I saw something flicker: fear? Guilt? I wasn't sure, but it told me one thing: he was lying. What house? I asked, my voice controlled. You told everyone 2 months ago that you already paid off the mortgage. So which story should we believe, Derek? The one where you're proud of owning a home? Or this new one where you're suddenly struggling? He didn't like that question. His jaw tightened, and he looked away for a second, just long enough to confirm everything I suspected. Olivia stepped forward nervously, wiping at her teary cheeks. She didn't look proud. She looked trapped. Naomi, she whispered, please not here. Not in front of everyone. Her voice broke my heart a little. I wanted to protect her. I had always wanted that. But how could I protect her when she helped destroy the one thing I had worked for? A phone call, Olivia, I said. One call. One message. You could have told me. Why didn't you? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She stared at the ground like she was searching for an answer buried somewhere beneath the grass. Derek stepped between us, blocking her from view. You should be thanking us, he snapped. We didn't let you waste that money. You're not smart enough to know what to do with it anyway. A few relatives murmured in surprise. Even if people liked Derek, they didn't expect him to say something that nasty out loud. My heart shattered, but anger held me together. I took a deep breath, lifting my chin. I worked hard for my money. I survived in this city without help from anyone. I earned every dollar. And you had no right to touch it. So either you return my savings, or I go to the police. He laughed. Loud. Fake. You think the police will care about family issues? You think anyone will take your side over mine? But a few relatives shifted uncomfortably. Not everyone agreed with him now. And he noticed. His eyes hardened. This conversation is over, he said. You're making a scene. No, I replied firmly. You made the choice to steal from me. And I'm not walking away silently. For the first time, Derek looked nervous, not much, but enough to show I was a threat he hadn't expected. Aunt June came over, her voice gentle but worried. Naomi, sweetheart, maybe just let it go, she said quietly. We're family. Family. That word again. The same word printed on the big banner hanging across the pavilion. Family, our greatest treasure. But what about respect? What about honesty? Did those matter at all? I shook my head slowly. I will not be quiet. Not about this. Derek leaned in close, his voice low and warning. You're going to regret this. A cold fear wrapped around my spine like ice. But inside my chest, something stronger awakened. Resolve. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about betrayal. It was about truth. And I would not stop until I knew everything they were hiding. The drive back home felt like the longest ride of my life. My cousin Sophia offered to take me because she could see the way my hands were trembling. I tried to hold my tears back, but the city lights kept blurring as they slipped from my eyes. The tall buildings outside looked like silent witnesses to my humiliation. I didn't want to cry for money. I cried because of betrayal. The moment I reached my apartment, I grabbed my bag and headed straight for the bank nearby. The glass doors slid open with a soft beep, and I marched inside, determination replacing shock. A warm voice greeted me at the front desk. Hello, how can I help you today? I need to report unauthorized withdrawals from my account, I said, trying to stay calm. All of my savings were taken. Every cent. The bank representative, a kind-looking woman named Angela, immediately pulled up my account. Her eyes widened. This is a large amount, she said softly. We will get to the bottom of this. Please follow me to my office. I sat down, clutching my phone tightly. Angela began clicking on her computer, going through each transaction. There were multiple cash withdrawals from different ATMs around the city. She turned the screen slightly toward me. Do you recognize any of these locations? No, I said quickly. I was working during most of these times. Angela frowned. We have security footage tied to these transactions. Would you like to view them? Yes, I whispered. Please. She left and returned with a small tablet. She tapped a video. There he was. Derek. Dressed in a black hoodie, pulling out my money, again and again. My chest tightened painfully. Angela tapped a second video. And this time, Olivia stood beside him. She looked scared. Nervous. But she handed Derek the card. That was the moment my heart cracked freshly open. Not one mistake. Not one emergency. A continuous betrayal. Angela spoke gently. Do you want to open a fraud case? We can involve the police immediately. I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, my phone rang. Mom. I hesitated, then answered. Naomi, where are you? My mom's voice sounded tense and rushed. At the bank, Mom, I replied. Derek stole everything. They have video proof. I'm opening a case. Naomi, she interrupted sharply. We handle family issues inside the family. You cannot involve the police. Do you want to ruin your sister's marriage? Embarrass everyone? I froze. Embarrass everyone? I was the one robbed. Yet somehow, I was still the villain. Mom continued, your sister has been through enough. Derek is the man of her home. If you involve the law, they could lose everything. They already took everything from me, I whispered. Mom sighed heavily. Just drop it. We will find another way. I stared at the footage replaying over and over, Derek's hand grabbing my cash. Olivia looking away in shame. Drop it. No. Something in me snapped a fire, a voice I had silenced for years. I'm not letting this go, Mom, I said firmly. I trusted them. They stole from me. They lied. I deserve justice. Mom's tone turned cold. If you do this, don't expect the family to be on your side. The call ended. I closed my eyes, tears falling not from weakness anymore, but from rage. I looked up at Angela. Open the case, I said. Do everything necessary. Angela nodded. We'll take immediate action. Then she added, you're doing the right thing. Maybe. But in that moment, it felt like I had just declared war on my own family. And I wasn't sure who would survive the battle. By the next morning, the entire family had heard the story, not my truth, but Derek's version. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating with messages, missed calls, and long voice notes from relatives who suddenly cared, but only to silence me. Aunt June. Naomi, please, think of your sister. Don't do anything stupid. Uncle Ray. Take your complaint back. You'll embarrass us all. This family has a reputation. Grandma. You must forgive. Money comes and goes. Family stays forever. Family stays forever. My chest tightened. No one seemed to care that family had stolen from me heartlessly. When my phone rang again, I almost ignored it, but this time, it was Mom. I answered with a shaky breath. Mom. She didn't let me speak. Naomi, she yelled. What did I tell you? Now the police are calling and asking questions. Do you want your sister's children to grow up without a father? Her voice cut through me like a sharp blade. This isn't my fault, I said, trying to stay calm. Derek stole my money. I only asked for what's right. Doesn't that matter to you? Mom paused, just long enough for me to hope she understood, but then she sighed loudly, disappointed. You are young and selfish, she said. You could get married too if you spent less time chasing useless dreams. Derek was just trying to protect Olivia and the kid. I gasped. By robbing me? Mom lowered her voice, but every word was heavy. You can always make more money, but you can never get a broken family back together. I felt the ground beneath me shift. Was that really what they believed? That I should sacrifice my life savings just to protect someone else's marriage? Mom, I whispered, voice cracking, I worked so hard. Why is no one angry at them? Because this family knows what matters, she snapped. Unity. Respect. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. When the wound was still wide open, Mom added sharply, you need to call the bank and withdraw the complaint. Do it today. When the call ended, I stood there breathing hard, holding back tears in my tiny kitchen surrounded by unpaid bills and dreams bigger than the room. Later that evening, Olivia came to my apartment. She knocked softly, like her hands were afraid of my door. I opened it just enough to see her face, red eyes, trembling lips, heavy guilt. Naomi, can we talk? She asked. I stepped aside silently. She walked in like a ghost, clutching her hands together. Derek is angry, she started. He feels betrayed. He's saying you want to destroy our family. I laughed, a humorless, painful sound. Oh, so I'm the destroyer now? That's not what I mean, she whispered. I didn't know he would take everything. I thought he only needed a little to fix something. Fix what? I asked. You keep saying that. What is he hiding, Olivia? She looked away again, the second time she did that around this topic. I can't tell you, she whispered. You won't tell me, I corrected her. Olivia started crying. Please, just drop the case. Derek promised he'll repay you little by little. We just need time. Time. To twist the story deeper. To bury more lies. I shook my head. No. I'm not giving up. I'm not guilty for wanting back what's mine. Olivia sobbed harder. If you keep going. Mom said the family might cut you off. My heart throbbed painfully. I guess they already did, I whispered. Olivia looked at me with pleading eyes, but I had already seen the truth. No one wanted justice. They only wanted silence. And I refused to be silent anymore. The betrayal wasn't only from Derek now. It was from everyone. But that only made me stronger. If I had to walk this road alone, so be it. By the next morning, the entire family had heard the story, not my truth, but Derek's version. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating with messages, missed calls, and long voice notes from relatives who suddenly cared, but only to silence me. Aunt June. Naomi, please, think of your sister. Don't do anything stupid. Uncle Ray. Take your complaint back. You'll embarrass us all. This family has a reputation. Grandma. You must forgive. Money comes and goes. Family stays forever. Family stays forever. My chest tightened. No one seemed to care that family had stolen from me heartlessly. When my phone rang again, I almost ignored it, but this time, it was Mom. I answered with a shaky breath. Mom. She didn't let me speak. Naomi, she yelled. What did I tell you? Now the police are calling and asking questions. Do you want your sister's children to grow up without a father? Her voice cut through me like a sharp blade. This isn't my fault, I said, trying to stay calm. Derek stole my money. I only asked for what's right. Doesn't that matter to you? Mom paused, just long enough for me to hope she understood, but then she sighed loudly, disappointed. You are young and selfish, she said. You could get married too if you spent less time chasing useless dreams. Derek was just trying to protect Olivia and the kid. I gasped. By robbing me? Mom lowered her voice, but every word was heavy. You can always make more money, but you can never get a broken family back together. I felt the ground beneath me shift. Was that really what they believed? That I should sacrifice my life savings just to protect someone else's marriage? Mom, I whispered, voice cracking, I worked so hard. Why is no one angry at them? Because this family knows what matters, she snapped. Unity. Respect. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. When the wound was still wide open, Mom added sharply, you need to call the bank and withdraw the complaint. Do it today. When the call ended, I stood there breathing hard, holding back tears in my tiny kitchen surrounded by unpaid bills and dreams bigger than the room. Later that evening, Olivia came to my apartment. She knocked softly, like her hands were afraid of my door. I opened it just enough to see her face, red eyes, trembling lips, heavy guilt. Naomi, can we talk? She asked. I stepped aside silently. She walked in like a ghost, clutching her hands together. Derek is angry, she started. He feels betrayed. He's saying you want to destroy our family. I laughed, a humorless, painful sound. Oh, so I'm the destroyer now? That's not what I mean, she whispered. I didn't know he would take everything. I thought he only needed a little to fix something. Fix what? I asked. You keep saying that. What is he hiding, Olivia? She looked away again, the second time she did that around this topic. I can't tell you, she whispered. You won't tell me, I corrected her. Olivia started crying. Please, just drop the case. Derek promised he'll repay you little by little. We just need time. Time. To twist the story deeper. To bury more lies. I shook my head. No. I'm not giving up. I'm not guilty for wanting back what's mine. Olivia sobbed harder. If you keep going. Mom said the family might cut you off. My heart throbbed painfully. I guess they already did, I whispered. Olivia looked at me with pleading eyes, but I had already seen the truth. No one wanted justice. They only wanted silence. And I refused to be silent anymore. The betrayal wasn't only from Derek now. It was from everyone. But that only made me stronger. If I had to walk this road alone, so be it. The city skyline glowed as I left my apartment and walked toward the small coffee shop where Olivia had asked to meet me. The streets were alive with late-night traffic, horns blaring, engines revving, but I barely noticed. My mind replayed the bank footage, Derek's brazen lies, and my family's cold reactions. How could people I loved betray me like this? Olivia was already at a corner table when I arrived. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling as she held a cup of steaming coffee. She looked smaller than usual, like the weight of the world was pressing her down. Naomi, she said quietly, thank you for meeting me. I sat down without a word, crossing my arms. I need to tell you something, she began. Something I should have told you before everything happened. Her voice cracked. It's Derek, he's been hiding things. I waited. My heart beat faster, sensing that whatever she was about to say would change everything. He lost his job months ago, she admitted, finally looking at me. He didn't want anyone to know. He told me he'd find another one soon, but, her voice faltered. But he didn't. And then, she swallowed hard. He started borrowing money, gambling, making promises he couldn't keep. My stomach churned. So the man who had taken my savings wasn't desperate to save a house, a child's future, or even the family name. He was sinking into his own mess. And I had been dragged into it. Gambling? I asked sharply. So he stole from me to cover bets. How could you let him use my card, Olivia? Did you even think about what this would do to me? Olivia looked down at her coffee cup. Her hands shook violently. I thought he'd pay it back before you noticed. He promised me. He said he was only taking what he needed to get back on his feet. I felt a surge of anger mixed with disbelief. You gave him my card number? Without asking me? Without even thinking if he'd honor your promise? Tears ran down her cheeks. I didn't know he would take everything. Naomi, I swear, I didn't mean for it to happen. I wanted to help him. I thought I was protecting our family. I leaned back in my chair, my fingers tightening into fists. Protecting the family? From what? From consequences? From the truth? You helped him steal from me, Olivia, I said quietly but firmly. That's not protection. That's betrayal. She flinched. I know, and I hate myself for it. I feel awful. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought family comes first. Family. That word again. But she had misunderstood its meaning. It wasn't about covering lies. It wasn't about stealing from someone you loved. I shook my head slowly. Family comes first when there's love, trust, and respect. You broke all three. Olivia sobbed quietly, covering her face with her hands. I'm sorry, Naomi. I really am. I didn't know what else to do. Her confession only made my blood boil more. Betrayal and lies intertwined so tightly now that it was almost impossible to separate them. Derek had manipulated everyone, including her. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Okay, I said finally. Now I know everything. But don't think this means I'll back down. I want my money back. I want Derek held accountable. Olivia, if you ever try to cover for him again, it won't just be money on the line. It'll be everything. She nodded silently, her face buried in her hands again. I understand, she whispered. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. The battle wasn't just against Derek. It was against a tide of lies, betrayal, and a family too afraid to face the truth. But I wouldn't back down. I couldn't. I had to fight. Even if it meant standing alone. The next morning, I waited near the entrance of Derek and Olivia's apartment building. My hands were tight around my phone, my heart pounding. I didn't know if he would answer, or worse, if he would try to intimidate me. But I had to face him. I had to demand my money back, no matter the consequences. When Derek finally stepped out of the elevator, he looked calm, too calm. His usual smug smile was in place, but his eyes flickered with something I couldn't immediately identify. I squared my shoulders and stepped forward. Derek, I said firmly, my voice steady despite the rage bubbling inside me. We need to talk. Now. He stopped and looked at me, raising an eyebrow. Oh. About what, Naomi? Another complaint? Another family crisis you want to create? I want my money back, I said, cutting straight to the point. All of it. Every single dollar you stole from me. Derek chuckled, leaning back against the wall. You really don't get it, do you? You don't understand what this will do. You keep pressing me, and you know what? You'll destroy everything, Olivia's marriage, our family. Is that what you want? I felt my stomach twist. He was trying to corner me, trying to make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. I had seen it in movies, read about it, but feeling it in real life was suffocating. "Do you think I care about hurting your marriage?" I asked, keeping my voice low but fierce. "Do you think I care about the lies you've been living? Do you think I'll let you steal my life and get away with it?" Derek's smirk faltered slightly, and for a brief moment, I saw the hint of panic in his eyes. He straightened his jacket and stepped closer, his voice lowering into a dangerous whisper. "You don't know what you're getting into. If you take this further, I'll make sure everyone knows you've been causing problems in this family. Olivia will hate you. The children will be caught in the middle. You think the police will solve everything? You're naive, Naomi. Very naive." I clenched my fists, holding back the urge to scream. He was threatening me, but he underestimated me. I wasn't afraid of truth. I wasn't afraid of confrontation. "I'm not naive," I said firmly. "I've trusted you too many times, and you've lied to me at every turn. I am not backing down. I am not walking away. You took what I earned, Derek. You lied to everyone. And now you will pay it back." He stared at me for a long moment, his eyes narrowing. I could see the tension in his jaw. This wasn't just a threat anymore, it was desperation. "Fine," he said finally, his voice cold and sharp. "Do what you want. But remember, you started this. And nothing will stop it from destroying you too." I took a deep breath and didn't flinch. "I am not afraid of you," I said. "And I'm not afraid of the consequences. What you did was wrong, and I will make sure it's fixed, one way or another." He shook his head slowly, muttering something under his breath, before turning and walking back into the building, slamming the door behind him. I stood there, hands shaking, heart racing, but a strange sense of clarity washed over me. Derek could threaten me all he wanted. He could try to make me feel guilty, scared, or cornered, but he couldn't stop me from fighting for what was mine. The city moved around me, cars honking, people rushing past, lights reflecting on wet pavement, but for a moment, I felt alone. I realized then that this conflict wasn't going to end soon. Derek wasn't just trying to cover his mistakes, he was trying to control everything around him. And if I wanted justice, I was going to have to fight harder than I ever had before. And I was ready. The city seemed colder that morning, as if it understood the storm I was about to face. The streets were wet from an overnight drizzle, and the bright morning sun barely touched the tops of the high-rise buildings. I made my way to the bank again, this time not just as a customer, but as someone determined to uncover the full truth about Derek's theft. At the front desk, Angela was busy with paperwork, but she waved me over to a small office in the back. I didn't notice the man sitting there until I was almost inside. He was tall, with a friendly smile and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Naomi Carter?" he asked, extending his hand. "I'm Ethan, one of the fraud analysts here. Angela mentioned your case. Thought I might be able to help." I hesitated, unsure whether to trust a stranger. But something about him felt genuine. Maybe it was his calm demeanor, maybe the way he didn't flinch when I explained my situation. "Okay," I said cautiously, shaking his hand. "I'm listening." Ethan motioned for me to sit, then opened his laptop. "I've been reviewing Derek's transactions. Something doesn't sit right. It's not just the withdrawals from your account. There are transfers going to accounts that aren't registered under his name or Olivia's. They're shady. Suspicious." My stomach tightened. "Shady how?" "Look here," he said, pulling up a series of numbers and dates. "See these transfers? The money leaves your account, goes into a shell company, then disappears. Derek is connected to this company, but no one else in the family knows about it." I leaned in closer. The screen showed dozens of small transactions, carefully disguised, adding up to tens of thousands of dollars. My heart pounded. Why would he do this? I whispered. Ethan shrugged. Could be debt. Could be gambling. Could be trying to cover something illegal. But it's bigger than just your money, Naomi. He's hiding something serious. I felt a cold shiver down my spine. So he's been using me, as a cover. Exactly, Ethan said. And the scary part? These accounts are linked to other people. If Derek has been doing this for a while, Other victims might exist. I closed my eyes, trying to process it all. Betrayal. Lies. Threats. And now, possibly a larger crime. Ethan noticed my expression. I know it's a lot. But you're not alone in this. We can trace the transfers, gather evidence, and if needed, bring it to law enforcement in a way that protects you and your family. You just need to trust me. I hesitated, thinking of Mom, Olivia, and the rest of the family. Most of them were against me. They wanted me to stay quiet. But I had come too far to turn back. I trust you, I said finally. But we have to be careful. Derek can be dangerous if he realizes we're digging into this. Ethan nodded. Agreed. We'll do this methodically. First, I'll map all the transfers. Then we find out who benefits from them. That's when we know how deep this goes. I felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. Someone on my side. Someone who could help me fight back. But at the same time, a sinking feeling settled in my chest. If Derek's schemes were this extensive, exposing him wouldn't just hurt him, it could hurt the entire family. And yet, I couldn't stop. I had to know the truth. Outside, the city roared with life. People rushed to work, honking horns, flashing neon signs. But my world had narrowed to this small office, a laptop screen, and the man who might help me reclaim not just my money, but justice itself. And somewhere out there, Derek was probably plotting his next move. The coffee shop smelled faintly of burnt espresso and sugar, but I barely noticed. My attention was fixed on my phone, which was buzzing non-stop with messages from Derek, Olivia, and even distant relatives. Most were meant to intimidate me, to make me feel small, and to stop me from digging any deeper. But I was too far in now. I couldn't turn back. Ethan had stayed late at the bank that evening, digging through transaction records. He called me with a quiet excitement in his voice. Naomi, I found something else, he said. It's not the bank records this time. Someone saved recordings. Voice messages Derek sent to a friend. He's bragging about what he did with your account and how he manipulated Olivia. My heart skipped. Recordings? Are they real? Yes. I've verified them, Ethan assured me. Listen carefully. This is the strongest evidence you'll have before involving the authorities. I barely waited. I opened the link he sent me and pressed play. The first voice was unmistakable. Derek. Loud, confident, almost laughing. Yeah, he said, Naomi has no idea. I've got the PIN, and Olivia handed it to me herself. She thinks I'm just borrowing. This is perfect. I take what I need, and she thinks it's temporary. She'll never see it coming. My hands shook. My stomach turned. He wasn't just lying to me in person, he was bragging, treating the theft like a game. Then came another recording, softer but more damning. Derek was speaking to Olivia, though I couldn't see her, I could feel her fear. Relax, baby, he said. I'll handle it. Just give me her card, and I'll make sure we get by. She trusts you, right? She won't notice. I pressed pause and let the phone fall to my lap. Rage burned through my chest, hotter than anything I'd ever felt. He had manipulated Olivia, used her trust, and then used my money. This wasn't a family issue anymore. This was calculated deception. Ethan's voice came over the phone again. Naomi, this is solid. You can prove he knowingly stole from you. You can show manipulation, intent, all of it. You're not just fighting for money anymore, you're exposing his lies. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. This changes everything, I whispered. This isn't just about the bank. It's about every lie, every threat, every time he tried to intimidate me. Exactly, Ethan said. Now we can start building a case. And if Derek realizes this, he might get desperate. You need to be careful. I thought about Derek, standing in his apartment, probably thinking he had the upper hand, probably laughing like he always did. The thought of confronting him again made my hands clench into fists. But I also felt a rush of power. For the first time in days, I had control. I had truth on my side. I looked at the phone screen again. Derek's voice filled the small room, a haunting echo of betrayal. But this time, I wasn't scared. I wasn't helpless. I had proof. Evidence. Something they couldn't deny. And I knew what I had to do. I leaned back in my chair, taking a deep breath, feeling the city hum around me, the endless traffic, the lights, the people rushing home. Outside, the world went on as if nothing had happened. But inside me, a storm was building. A storm that would not stop until Derek faced the consequences. And maybe, just maybe, the truth would finally set me free. The city was quiet that night, but I didn't notice. Streetlights flickered across my apartment walls as I sat on the couch, phone in hand, listening to Ethan's advice for the 100th time. "Naomi," he said softly, "you need to stay alert. Derek knows you're building evidence. He might try something. Don't be alone." I nodded, though I had been alone all day. My apartment felt smaller than usual. Every shadow seemed heavier, every creak of the floorboards louder. I had just placed my phone on the coffee table when I heard it, a sharp, heavy knock at the door. My heart froze. I peeked through the peephole. Derek. And not alone. Two men I didn't recognize stood behind him, their faces obscured in darkness. Panic gripped me. My pulse raced. I backed away slowly, my mind spinning. "Derek," I whispered through the door, trying to sound calm. "What do you want?" He smirked, his face barely visible in the dim light. "You know exactly why we're here. You've been stirring up trouble." The two men shifted, their presence menacing, silent. I could feel the danger pressing against me like a storm about to break. I took a deep breath. I had to think fast. The door couldn't hold them if they wanted in. "Derek, you can't just come here," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "This is my home. You're threatening me. You can't do this." He laughed, a low, cruel sound that made my stomach twist. "Threatening you? No, Naomi, we're just visiting. And maybe, teaching a lesson." My mind raced. My phone was on the table, but too far away. I couldn't call the police without risking them noticing. I had to move. Slowly, I edged toward the window in the bedroom, hoping it wasn't locked. Derek's shadow moved closer to the doorframe. "Come on, Naomi. Don't make this hard," he called. My hands found the window latch. It clicked open. Cold air rushed in, making my hair whip against my face. I climbed carefully onto the fire escape. My heart thumped so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "Wait!" Derek shouted. I froze for a second, terrified. One of the men leaned toward the window, but I kicked the latch again, making it fall open fully. I jumped onto the narrow metal ledge, feeling the weight of the building beneath me. Every instinct screamed to run. I climbed down as fast as I dared, careful not to slip on the slick metal from the drizzle earlier. Behind me, I heard Derek shouting, curses flying into the night. Finally, I reached the alley below, gasping for air. The sounds of the city at night, sirens, distant traffic, felt oddly comforting compared to the immediate threat. I pressed myself against the brick wall, trying to calm my shaking hands. I knew this was only the beginning. Derek's threats weren't empty. He had crossed a line tonight, showing he would stop at nothing. But in that moment, I felt a spark, fear mixed with determination. He could come for me, he could try to scare me, but he couldn't stop me from fighting. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, hands still trembling. I sent Ethan a quick message. "They came tonight. I barely got away. We need a plan, fast." As I walked cautiously to a nearby cafe that stayed open late, the city lights reflected off wet streets. Somewhere up there, Derek was probably fuming, plotting his next move. And I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't safe. Not yet. But I wasn't going to run. The city felt heavy that morning, grey clouds covering the skyline as if reflecting my mood. I walked slowly to my mother's apartment, my hands in my pockets and my heart sinking. After last night's terrifying encounter with Derek, I needed answers. I needed someone to understand that I was not the enemy. I hoped my mother would finally see the truth. I knocked softly. The door opened almost immediately. Mom's face was tight, drawn, and even colder than usual. "Naomi," she said sharply. "What do you want now?" I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "Mom, we need to talk. About Derek." About what's happening? About everything? Her eyes narrowed. About everything? Or just about making more trouble? I flinched. Mom, please. You know I'm not making trouble. Derek stole my money. He threatened me last night. I barely got away. Her face hardened further, and I felt a pang of despair. She crossed her arms and looked at me as if I were a child who had done something unforgivable. Naomi, enough, she said, her voice rising. I cannot believe you. You are being selfish. Selfish and reckless. Do you know what you're doing to your sister? To this family? I froze. The word selfish hit harder than anything else. My hands trembled. Selfish. Mom. I worked for that money. I saved it for years. I trusted you all to support me if I needed help, not what? Not be patient. Not stay silent, she interrupted. Her voice cracked with frustration. You are destroying everything we've tried to protect. Your sister, Derek, the whole family, all for your own pride. Can't you see that? I shook my head, tears threatening to spill. Mom, I am not proud of being robbed. I am not proud of being manipulated. I'm angry because you all are letting him get away with it. I trusted family, and they. She cut me off again. Stop blaming everyone else. You think this world is fair. You think people will always protect you. You think you can go around making enemies and still be loved. Her words were like cold knives. I wanted to argue, to tell her she didn't understand, but the tears finally came. One by one, they ran down my cheeks. I just wanted what was mine, I whispered, my voice breaking. I just wanted my money back, and instead, I feel like no one cares. No one understands. Not you. Not Olivia. No one. Mom shook her head, her own face hardening. Naomi, sometimes, the right thing is not what feels right. You have to think about the family. About peace. About keeping things together. I pressed my hands to my face, sobbing silently. The city beyond her window blurred into streaks of grey and light. I felt smaller than I had ever felt in my life. The family I had trusted, the people I had loved, might never see my side. For the first time, a sharp, bitter realization cut through me. I might be completely alone in this fight. And yet, deep inside, beneath the tears, a spark remained. A spark that refused to let Derek win. A spark that refused to let lies and manipulation erase my future. Even if my mother, even if my family, never understood. I wiped my face slowly, breathing heavily. I had to keep going. I had to keep fighting. Because if I stopped now, I would have lost more than money. I would have lost myself. The city was alive with its usual chaos, honking cars, sirens wailing in the distance, people rushing to work, but inside the small bank office, the world felt like it had narrowed down to just Naomi, Ethan, and the glowing laptop screen. Ethan looked at me with a calm intensity that was somehow reassuring. Naomi, he said, we need to act fast. Derek is dangerous, and the longer he has access to your money, the more damage he can do not just to you, but to anyone else he's manipulated. I nodded, determined but anxious. So, what's the plan? Ethan pulled up a series of bank accounts linked to Derek. First, we freeze all accounts tied to him. I've already identified most of the transfers connected to the shell companies he's been using. Once frozen, he won't be able to move any more money. This is the first step in protecting you. I held my breath as he typed furiously, running scripts and double-checking account numbers. Every click, every entry of a password, made my stomach tighten. It felt like a small victory, but one that might set off a storm. Done, Ethan finally said, leaning back in his chair. All accounts linked to Derek are temporarily frozen. No transfers, no withdrawals. For now, he's trapped. A rush of relief surged through me, but it was short-lived. That's good, but he'll try something, I said. He's unpredictable. And desperate. Ethan nodded. Which is why step 2 is even more important. I've been digging deeper into his history, and, Naomi, it's worse than we thought. Derek hasn't just stolen from you. There are records, other family members, distant relatives, even friends. There are missing funds, unusual transactions, and suspicious loans taken out in other people's names. This has been going on for years. I felt a chill run down my spine. My anger intensified. Not only had Derek stolen from me, but he had a pattern, a history of deceit and theft. This was bigger than I imagined. So we need evidence, I said, my voice firm. Solid proof that he's been doing this for years. Something undeniable. Ethan smiled faintly. That's where I come in. I can compile everything: bank transfers, shell accounts, voice recordings, transaction timestamps. If we present this correctly, law enforcement will have no choice but to act. My mind raced. And Olivia? Mom? My family? Ethan's expression softened. We'll handle it carefully. They may not understand everything yet. But if Derek has been doing this for years, the truth will eventually come out. Right now, our priority is protecting you and making sure he can't hurt anyone else. I exhaled slowly, feeling a mix of relief and adrenaline. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. Someone believed me, and more importantly, someone was helping me fight. I glanced out the office window. The city buzzed with life, oblivious to the battles being fought in small offices and hidden apartments. But inside me, a storm was growing, purposeful, relentless, and unstoppable. Ethan, I said quietly, determination shining in my eyes, let's make sure Derek can never get away with this. Not from me, not from anyone. He nodded. We'll take it step by step. And Naomi, you've been brave. This is just the beginning. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. I might have lost the trust of my family, and Derek might think he's untouchable, but with the right plan and the right ally, I could turn the tables. The fight was far from over. The city streets outside my apartment glowed with neon lights and car headlights, but inside, the world felt darker than ever. The family reunion, meant to be a celebration, had left nothing but rubble in its wake. Whispers, accusations, and mistrust had spread like wildfire. Some relatives had taken my side, cousins who knew Derek's temper, distant aunts who had quietly observed his controlling ways, but others were relentless in their criticism. You're being selfish, Naomi, my mother had said again over breakfast yesterday, her voice sharp. You care more about money than family. Greed will ruin everything, my Uncle Ray added when he called, his tone venomous. You're tearing us apart for a few dollars. Think about Olivia's children. I tried to explain the truth, that Derek had stolen my savings, lied, and manipulated everyone, but no one seemed to hear me. In their eyes, I was the problem. The loud, reckless niece who threatened family unity. It was exhausting. As I sat in my apartment that evening, phone in hand, the neon reflection from the streets flickered across the screen. That's when it arrived, a text from an unknown number. You don't know who you're fighting. I stared at the message, heart racing. The words were short but chilling, carrying an unspoken warning. I didn't recognize the number. My fingers hovered over the screen, unsure whether to reply or ignore it. Who could this be? I muttered to myself. My thoughts immediately went to Derek. Was this another one of his threats? Or someone else entirely? I felt a shiver run down my spine. The city noises outside felt distant and hollow, leaving a ringing silence that amplified the weight of that message. My mind raced through possibilities: Derek's friends, accomplices, someone connected to those shell accounts, or worse, a stranger who knew more than I realized. I tried to focus, forcing myself to think logically. Derek had been stealing money for months, maybe years. Could he have involved other people? Maybe even other relatives? Or enemies we hadn't noticed? The more I thought, the heavier the realization became. I was not just fighting for my money. I was standing against someone, or maybe a group, who had no limits, no conscience, and possibly deep connections in the city. I texted Ethan immediately. Received a strange message. Could be Derek or someone else. What should I do? Within minutes, he replied. Stay alert. Don't reply. Keep your location private. I'll trace it if possible. Could be a warning or an attempt to scare you. Either way, we need a plan. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the tension press on me from all sides. Family torn, Derek desperate, and now this mysterious threat. The weight of isolation was suffocating, yet beneath it, a resolve grew stronger. I wouldn't stop. I couldn't stop. Derek had crossed every line imaginable, and someone, somewhere, had decided to intervene or to intimidate me further. I stared out the window at the glowing skyline, the city alive and unaware of the battles playing out in small apartments and quiet offices. The wind rattled against the glass, whispering a warning I couldn't ignore. And I knew, deep down, that the next steps would be dangerous. More dangerous than anything I had faced so far. But I was ready. Because no message, no threat, no divided family could stop me from reclaiming what was mine. The city felt colder than usual that morning, the grey light filtering through tall buildings and reflecting off wet sidewalks. I walked briskly to the coffee shop where Ethan and I had been meeting, my phone buzzing in my pocket with messages I didn't have time to read. Every step felt heavy, weighed down by weeks of lies, betrayal, and fear. When I arrived, Ethan was already at the corner table, laptop open, his eyes scanning the screen. He looked up as I slid into the chair across from him. "I called someone," he said quietly. "You need to meet him." Before I could ask who, a tall man in a sharp suit entered the shop. His posture was confident, professional, and his eyes, dark, sharp, and calculating, scanned the room like he missed nothing. "Naomi Carter?" he asked, approaching our table. "Yes," I said cautiously, trying to steady my shaking hands. "I'm Detective Harris," he said, extending his hand. "I've been looking into Derek Matthews. He's been involved in multiple fraud and scam cases. Some victims didn't report it, but your case drew attention. Ethan gave me permission to contact you." Relief and tension collided inside me. Finally, someone in authority was taking this seriously. But part of me also feared what Derek would do if he realized the law was closing in. "Detective," I said, my voice wavering slightly, "he stole all my savings. He threatened me, and my family." Harris nodded, listening intently. "I understand. That's why I'm here. You're not alone in this anymore. We can act, but you need to be careful. People like him, desperate, reckless, don't give up easily. They often escalate when they feel cornered." Ethan leaned back, glancing at me. "See? I told you having professional help could make a difference." I exhaled slowly, feeling a flicker of hope. After weeks of feeling trapped and unheard, for the first time, I sensed the possibility of justice. Detective Harris pulled out a folder, opening it to reveal documents, bank statements, and other evidence. "We've started compiling information from the accounts Derek has been using. Voice recordings, bank transfers, and shell companies. This is just the beginning, but it's solid enough to start an official investigation." I studied the documents, my stomach twisting. The evidence I had collected, combined with Ethan's findings, was finally taking shape as something powerful. Something Derek could not deny. But Harris's next words reminded me that danger was far from over. "Be careful, Naomi. Once he realizes the law is involved, he may try to retaliate. Threats, intimidation, even physical harm. People like him often have friends who can be dangerous. You need to protect yourself." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. I've faced threats before, but," my voice faltered. "This feels different. He's desperate now." Harris's gaze was steady. "That's why we'll move carefully, methodically. You'll be safe if you follow instructions. But Derek isn't going to give up easily. And neither should you. Justice will take time, but it's coming." I felt a weight lift slightly from my chest. After weeks of isolation, of threats from family and Derek alike, I finally had an ally with authority and power. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We're getting there, Naomi. We just have to stay smart." I looked out the window at the city streets bustling with life, neon lights reflecting off wet asphalt. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably plotting his next move. But now, I wasn't alone. And I realized something crucial. The fight wasn't just about money anymore. It was about truth, justice, and survival. The danger was real. But so was the hope. The city streets blurred past my car window as I drove toward Olivia's apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. Weeks of lies, betrayal, and threats had worn me down, but today I felt a mixture of dread and determination. I needed to know where Olivia really stood. When I arrived, the building looked ordinary, quiet, unassuming, but inside, I could feel the tension almost radiating through the walls. I took a deep breath and walked up the stairs to her door. Olivia opened it before I could knock. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed with red from crying. For the first time, the confident, hesitant woman I had known seemed completely broken. "Naomi," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Thank you for coming." I stepped inside cautiously, scanning the apartment. It was neat, almost too neat, as if someone had been controlling everything, even her surroundings. "What's wrong, Olivia?" I asked softly. "You look like you've been through hell." She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I can't do this anymore," she murmured. "Derek, he's making me terrified. He threatened me if I ever helped you. He says if I cooperate with you, I'll regret it. And I don't know how much longer I can handle it." My heart tightened. I had suspected Derek's control over her, but hearing it in her own words made the reality unbearable. "Olivia," I said gently, sitting beside her, "I need to know the truth. Is he threatening you? For real?" She nodded quickly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Yes. He's dangerous, Naomi. I've tried to be strong, but I can't. He's manipulative, controlling, and I'm scared for the kids, scared for myself." I reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "You don't have to face him alone anymore. You can get out of this. We'll find a way." She shook her head, sobbing quietly. "I want to, Naomi. I really do. But I don't know how. I'm trapped. He watches everything I do. I can't even leave the apartment without him knowing. And if he finds out I'm helping you," her voice broke completely, "I don't know what he'll do." I drew a deep breath, realizing how much she had endured silently. "Olivia," I said firmly, "we'll be careful. We'll plan this. You and the kids can get out safely. But you have to trust me. I can't fight Derek alone." She looked up at me, hope and fear mingling in her eyes. "You really mean that?" "Every word," I said. "You deserve freedom, and so do the kids. Derek doesn't get to control your life anymore." For the first time, Olivia seemed to believe me. She clutched my hand tightly, as if holding on to hope itself. "I've been so scared, Naomi," she whispered. "I didn't know who to trust. I didn't even know if you'd hate me for what I did." I shook my head. "I don't hate you, Olivia. I just want us to be safe and finally stop all the lies, threats, and theft. Derek has gone too far. It's time we end his control, carefully, but firmly." The weight of weeks of fear and tension seemed to lift slightly in that small apartment. But I knew this was only the beginning. Derek's desperation would grow now that he realized Olivia might be leaving him, and he would do everything in his power to stop us. And I also knew that helping Olivia escape would put both of us in even more danger. But for the first time, we had a plan, and for the first time, I could see a glimmer of hope in her eyes. The battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The city hummed outside my apartment, a mixture of traffic, chatter, and distant sirens. But inside, the room felt quiet, almost tense, as if the air itself was holding its breath. On my small coffee table lay a stack of documents, bank statements, and printouts of emails, transfers, and messages, everything we had gathered over the past weeks. Ethan leaned over the table, adjusting the laptop so that Detective Harris could see it clearly. Olivia sat beside me, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap, while Harris scanned the documents with the meticulous eye of someone used to spotting even the smallest discrepancies. "This is more than just your money, Naomi," Harris said, tapping the stack of papers. "Derek has created a pattern of deceit. If we organize this properly, it won't just prove theft. It will show intent, manipulation, and the history of fraud." Ethan nodded, pointing at the laptop. "I've compiled the recordings, the transaction trails, and even the shell companies. All evidence links directly back to him. The key is showing a clear timeline, step by step, so there's no question of his guilt." Olivia took a deep breath, her voice quiet but determined. We have to be careful. Derek is unpredictable. If he senses what we're doing, he could lash out. He's already threatened me. I put my hand on hers, squeezing gently. We know. That's why we're planning every step carefully. You won't have to face him alone anymore. Harris leaned back in his chair. The first step is documenting everything. Emails, messages, bank transfers, voice recordings. Next, we'll secure statements from you and any witnesses. Then, we present it to the district attorney. Once the legal process starts, Derek won't have the same freedom to manipulate or intimidate. I glanced at Olivia. You understand this, right? We have to follow this plan exactly. Any mistake, and he could try to retaliate. She nodded, her eyes glistening. I understand. I want him gone. I want the truth to come out. Ethan pulled up a digital map of the accounts and transactions. Look here, he said, pointing at the screen. All the transfers, deposits, and withdrawals are linked. We've color-coded them to show the flow. This makes it impossible for him to deny or confuse the timeline. Harris leaned over, scanning the data. Good. This is thorough. With this, the authorities can act quickly once we present the case. We need every piece of evidence lined up, so there's no room for his lies to take root. I exhaled slowly, feeling a mix of fear and determination. The months of stress, the threats, and the betrayals had all led to this point. This plan wasn't just about money anymore, it was about justice, truth, and reclaiming control over my life. Ethan closed the laptop. Once the evidence is ready, we set a date. We present it. Derek will have no choice but to face the consequences. Olivia looked at me, hope and fear in her eyes. You really think this will work? I nodded firmly. It has to. Derek has been hiding behind lies for too long. This is the moment we show everyone the truth. And we do it together, me, you, Ethan, and Harris. No one else can manipulate this family anymore. The city lights outside flickered on as night approached, reflecting off glass buildings like 1,000 tiny eyes watching us. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably planning his next move. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of purpose. We weren't just fighting for money. We were fighting for truth, for justice, and for freedom from fear. And for the first time, I believed Derek's days of control were numbered. The restaurant gleamed under crystal chandeliers, the city skyline visible through towering windows. Families laughed softly over their meals, the clinking of silverware and murmurs of conversation filling the air. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, a large family dinner organized to mend tensions after the disastrous reunion. But I wasn't there to celebrate. I was there to expose Derek. I adjusted my dress, my hands trembling slightly, my heart pounding. Olivia sat beside me, her fingers intertwined with mine, silently giving me courage. Ethan and Detective Harris stayed nearby, ready for anything. When Derek arrived, he looked as confident and smug as ever. He shook hands, nodded at relatives, and smiled like nothing had changed. But I knew better. I had proof. I had the truth. The dinner began, polite conversation flowing awkwardly at first. Then I stood, glass in hand, and cleared my throat. Silence fell quickly. Everyone, I began, my voice shaking but strong, there's something that needs to be said. Derek's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. I could feel the tension radiating from him across the polished table. I trusted my family, I continued, taking a deep breath. I trusted my sister and my brother-in-law. And I trusted that family meant honesty, respect, and support. But Derek stole my savings, manipulated Olivia, and has been hiding a pattern of lies and theft for years. Murmurs swept through the room. My relatives exchanged shocked glances, whispers spreading like wildfire. Derek leaned forward, his voice sharp. Naomi, you don't know what you're talking about. You're making a scene. This is private. I cut him off, holding up my phone. No. I have recordings, bank records, and messages that prove every word I'm saying. This isn't a scene, it's the truth. Gasps filled the restaurant. Some relatives covered their mouths in shock, others whispered furiously. Derek's face turned red with fury, his hands clenching the table. "You will not humiliate me here," he shouted, rising from his seat. The restaurant fell silent, all eyes on the confrontation. Detective Harris stepped forward calmly, badge in hand. "Derek Matthews, you are being accused of multiple acts of fraud and theft. You will not leave this establishment. Police are on the way." Derek's eyes widened in panic, then narrowed in rage. "You think you can trap me? I am not going to jail. You can't." Before he could move, Ethan discreetly pressed a button on his phone. Moments later, uniformed officers appeared in the doorway, approaching swiftly. Derek froze, realizing his usual intimidation tactics would no longer work. Relatives gasped again, some crying, others whispering heatedly. Derek struggled, his voice rising in anger, but the officers guided him toward the exit. I stood there, hands shaking, heart racing. The weight of weeks of fear, threats, and betrayal pressed against me, but I also felt a surge of relief. Derek couldn't manipulate me or my family anymore. Olivia reached for my hand, tears in her eyes. "You did it, Naomi. You really did it." I exhaled slowly, scanning the room. Some relatives looked at me with newfound respect, others avoided my gaze, still unsure of where they stood. But one thing was certain, the truth was out. Derek's lies had been exposed publicly, and for the first time, I felt the sting of vindication. Yet as the officers escorted Derek out, I realized this wasn't the end. The fallout would be messy, family divisions, gossip, and the possibility of Derek trying something desperate remained. The city skyline twinkled outside, beautiful and indifferent, as if it had watched everything unfold and had no part in the chaos below. And in that moment, I knew, the battle wasn't over. Not yet. The city lights flickered through the blinds of my apartment, casting long, sharp shadows across the room. The chaos of the family dinner still echoed in my mind, the gasps, the murmurs, Derek's furious shouts, but I knew that victory over him had only scratched the surface. The storm wasn't over. Detective Harris had called earlier that evening, his voice low and serious. "Naomi," he said, "I've uncovered something important. Derek's debts aren't just personal, they're dangerous." "What do you mean?" I asked, fear creeping into my chest. "He owes money to a group that doesn't forgive easily. These aren't ordinary lenders, they're dangerous, violent, and connected to organized gambling. If he can't pay them, they may turn their attention to the people around him. That includes you and your family." I felt the room spin slightly. My heart pounded. Derek had always been reckless, but I hadn't realized how deep his problems ran. "So you're saying, we're not just dealing with Derek anymore?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Exactly," Harris said. "This fight is bigger than family drama or theft. Derek's desperation could put everyone in real danger if we're not careful." I sank into the chair, trying to process the revelation. The weeks of fear, betrayal, and threats had been terrifying, but now the stakes had escalated. The family wasn't just divided anymore, they were potentially targets of a criminal network. Ethan, who had been quietly listening, leaned forward. "We need to map out all of Derek's known connections. Identify who he owes, how serious they are, and make sure we have protection in place. Security, surveillance, everything. We can't underestimate him or them." Olivia, sitting across from me, clutched my hand tightly. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the fear I felt inside. "Naomi, I don't know if I can handle this. He's already terrified me, but now, these people." I squeezed her hand back. "We'll handle it, Olivia. We'll be smart. We'll stay one step ahead. We've already taken down his influence over the family, this is just the next step." Harris nodded. "We're setting up surveillance, safe routes for the family, and a plan to monitor Derek's movements. But he's unpredictable. The moment he realizes law enforcement and family are coordinated, he may act impulsively." I swallowed hard. Impulsivity was Derek's strength and his danger. I thought of the night he came to my apartment, the threats, the lies, and the public confrontation at the restaurant. I realized how close we had come to disaster multiple times. "This isn't just about money anymore," I whispered. "It's about safety. About surviving him and whoever he owes money to." Ethan and Harris exchanged glances. Yes, Ethan said. And that means we need to be careful. Every decision, every step, every interaction with Derek counts now. One wrong move could put everyone in danger. I looked out the window at the glowing city skyline, neon lights reflecting off wet streets. The city thrummed with life, oblivious to the shadows creeping closer to my world. But I felt a cold determination settle over me. Derek's threats had escalated, his lies had been exposed, and now his dangerous connections loomed over us, but I refused to back down. This fight was far from over. And somewhere in the shadows, Derek and his creditors were already plotting their next move. The city was dark that night, the streets slick with recent rain. Neon signs reflected off puddles, painting distorted images across the pavement. I had just returned from checking on Olivia and the kids, feeling uneasy but trying to stay calm. Something in the air felt off, a tension I couldn't shake. I inserted my key into the apartment door and froze. The lock had been tampered with. My stomach turned as I slowly pushed the door open. Inside, chaos greeted me. Furniture was overturned. My laptop lay smashed on the floor, papers scattered everywhere, some shredded beyond recognition. The air smelled faintly of smoke, though no fire had been set. I took a shaky breath, gripping the edge of the counter. Someone had been here, and it was not Derek alone. A sudden vibration made me jump. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We warned you. Stop now, or worse comes next." My hands trembled. It was clear that Derek's allies had escalated. They weren't just threatening, they were taking action. I sank onto the couch, trying to calm my racing heart. Detective Harris had warned me about this, but experiencing it firsthand was terrifying. Derek's recklessness had pulled dangerous people into our lives, criminals who didn't care about morality, family, or consequences. I quickly called Ethan. His voice came immediately, sharp with concern. "Naomi, what happened?" "They were here," I said, my voice trembling. "My apartment, it's destroyed. And I got a message. They're serious, Ethan. This is more than Derek. These people, they're dangerous." He exhaled sharply. "Stay calm. Don't go anywhere. I'll trace the message and alert Harris. You're not alone in this. But we need to move fast. Derek's allies are testing you, seeing how far you'll go. They're dangerous, organized, and ruthless." I swallowed hard, scanning the wreckage. My apartment, my safe space, had been violated. The violation was personal, a direct warning that the fight was far from over. Detective Harris arrived within the hour, taking in the scene with a professional eye. "This is serious," he said. "Derek's circle is more dangerous than we realized. They're testing limits, seeing how much resistance you can offer. You'll need protection, surveillance, security, and strict routines. Nothing can be left to chance." I nodded, fighting back panic. I knew it wasn't over with Derek. But I didn't realize it had escalated this far. Harris's gaze was steady. "That's why we have to stay ahead. Every document, every piece of evidence we've gathered, every move you make must be deliberate. Derek's allies will exploit any weakness. But you've survived this long, Naomi, you can handle this. And we'll be with you every step of the way." I took a deep breath, feeling a cold determination settle over me. They had tried to intimidate me, to scare me into submission, but I wasn't giving up. Derek's lies, his manipulations, and now his criminal connections would not win. The city outside seemed indifferent to my chaos, alive and beautiful, yet unaware of the storms raging inside apartments and offices. But I knew one thing for certain. This fight was bigger, more dangerous, and far more personal than I had ever imagined. And if Derek and his allies thought they could scare me into silence, they were gravely mistaken. I rose from the couch, wiping my hands on my jeans. Tonight, I realized revenge doesn't sleep, and neither does the determination to reclaim what's yours. The night air was unusually quiet, almost too still for a busy American city. Streetlights flickered one by one as I walked down the sidewalk toward my temporary apartment, a secure location Detective Harris insisted I use after the break-in. I tried to steady my breathing, telling myself over and over that everything was finally turning in my favor. Derek had been arrested. Evidence was in the hands of the police. Detective Harris assured me charges were strong enough to keep him locked away. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sliver of relief. Ethan had called earlier and said, "Naomi, we're almost there. Just a little longer and this nightmare will be behind you." Almost. That word should have comforted me. But instead, it made my skin prickle. I reached the apartment building entrance just as my phone buzzed. Thinking it was Ethan checking in, I smiled faintly and opened the message. The smile died instantly. Breaking news alert: suspect escapes transport vehicle. Authorities urge the public to remain cautious. Suspect name: Derek Matthews. My heart nearly stopped. I froze on the sidewalk, staring at the screen as if it were a bad dream. Derek had escaped. I barely had time to process when another notification appeared, a text from an unknown number. My stomach twisted. "You took everything from me." A second message followed immediately. "Now it's my turn." My hands trembled so hard I almost dropped the phone. I scanned the street, pulse hammering in my ears. The city suddenly felt different, darker, more threatening. Cars drove by slowly, their headlights gliding over me like searching eyes. A cold breeze brushed my skin, making the hairs on my arms stand up. I stepped back toward the apartment door, fingers shaking as I reached for the keypad. I needed to get inside, call Harris, lock every door and window. But just as I entered the code, I felt a presence behind me. That unsettling feeling when someone is staring, watching, waiting. The keypad lights blurred as fear clouded my eyes. I swallowed, slowly turning my head. Across the street, beneath a neon sign that flickered red and white, a figure stood motionless, face hidden under a dark hood. Too still. Too focused. My breath caught in my throat. Was it Derek? Or someone working for him? I couldn't tell, but the message was clear. I wasn't safe. Not anymore. The figure took one slow step forward. And another. The city, once filled with laughter and bright lights, now felt like a maze of secrets that could destroy lives. My voice was barely a whisper as I backed into the lobby. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the echo of my own terrified heartbeat. The glass door shut between us, but I could still feel the eyes watching me. Studying me. As the elevator doors slid open, I rushed inside and hit the button repeatedly. The doors closed, sealing me inside the metal box, but not sealing out the fear. Derek was out there. And he wasn't alone. This wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a darker, more dangerous chapter. And one thing was certain. Revenge was coming. Who will survive this clash of family, betrayal, and hidden enemies in the shadows of the city? To be continued.